Buongiorno a tutti. Iniziamo adesso la...
Good morning, everyone. We are starting now with session number 3. Session 3 and 4 really get down to the nitty-gritty of the TIEF topics that are social inclusion and local development. We have two very important contributions. The one of Khalid Hawlal from Dubai, who is probably one of the most important experts in the world in Islamic finance and territorial and social development, and a very interesting intervention by a student, or Professor Biancone, who is going to tell us about a very interesting theme, a specific regional theme. So if you give me the line with Khalid Hawlal in Dubai.
Hello, Khalid. Can you hear me?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Line is open, so you can speak for us about 10 minutes, please.
Perfect. So firstly, my thanks to the organizers for the event. So look, I'm going to talk about two practical cases, so real-world examples of financial inclusion using Islamic fintech. I will share my screen, and hopefully, if technology functions, you can see my screen. So look, I have two case studies. Case study 1, which is actually, a very hot topic, the cryptoverse, so crypto assets, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, etc., and the creation of a halal peer-to-peer cryptoverse. And then case study 2, which is actually a real-world sukuk, the world's smallest microfinance sukuk. Usually people are always talking about the largest. Here, we were proud to have done the smallest, and that's a practical live case that's already have executed. So the potential for Islamic decentralized finance, the 3 trillion is the rough figure of liquidity available in the market. Currently, decentralized finance is worth around 150 billion. So this basically means there's around 150 billion equivalent of cryptocurrencies locked in various decentralized finance protocols. And of that portion, 0 is halal or Islamic. There is a lot of, let's say, confusion, uncertainty, concern around cryptocurrencies and whether or not they are halal or haram. And this singular fact is actually keeping a lot of Muslims away from the cryptoverse. So the halal cryptoverse, from our perspective, at the moment, all of these tokens, all of these products that you see launching in the cryptoverse pretty much are around making money, speculation, pump and dump type of scenarios. It's a very risky place to be. And a lot of the high returns made in decentralized finance are effectively from a form of unregulated lending. And so there are some very high yields on offer. The platform that we are building includes no riba, no interest, and no, I would call, riba replication. So none of these murabaha loans, none of the existing type of structures that you may see in Islamic finance that in some ways maybe replicate interest. All of the returns generated in this ecosystem are either from trading or from the phenomenon in crypto known as staking. Now, that's a whole different conversation that we can go into later, but staking, we believe, is fundamentally providing utility to a network, and so as such is a halal form of returns within the cryptoverse. Now, what's more important for inclusion is that as a broader thesis beyond fintech, beyond Islam, is that the global financial system has left a lot of people out. And for me personally, I genuinely feel a future solution is enabling peer-to-peer finance, which enables much more localized economies, much more localized, maybe, monetary systems. And as we're seeing around the world today, fiat money is being abused across all of the central banks of the world. And typically, it's the wealthier people that tend to hold assets that will resist inflation. And it's the lower income people that tend to hold cash, whose value they will see destroyed by the ongoing fiat money printing. The last element here of the platform is really about the cryptoverse. Immense barriers to access, better fiat currency integration is needed until decentralized finance reaches critical mass. The last slide on this first case study is just an overview of the ecosystem that we are building, and it includes a wallet solution. So the wallet will basically do a Sharia screening of all of the cryptocurrencies, the top 100 cryptocurrencies available, and only those currencies or tokens that we deem halal are actually available in the wallet. So the wallet acts as a kind of portal into the rest of the system. We will have a souk NFT. So here you will have halal NFTs. Now, NFTs at the moment are mostly focused on art, but I see a day in the future where NFTs can be used to exchange all assets. So it could be property, it could be your house, it could be your car, or even businesses. So NFTs at the moment seem to be focused on creative assets, but I see a day in the future where an ecosystem of value transfer can be created with NFTs. Liquidity Harvester, this is, I would say, our killer, the killer product, will generate between 5 to 15% halal returns from the cryptoverse. And then cross-chain aggregator is getting a bit technical now, but this basically allows access to multiple blockchains at the same time. I won't go into the phase 2 products, but phase 1 is due to happen all within the next 6 months. So this is my first case study, and inshallah, this is the future. I genuinely believe decentralized finance offers an inflection point of a new way to conduct finance, and hopefully technology will enable real, in my view, Islamic finance that are closer to the principles, rather than just trying to copy everything that conventional finance has to offer. So the next case study, the microfinance industry sector in Indonesia is huge. SMEs, I think, in Indonesia employ around 60% plus of the population. So access to financing and Sharia compliant access to financing is actually a challenge for a lot of the Islamic microfinance sector. And they face quite a lot of challenges around asset liability management, and they have some peak liquidity pressures. And typically they go to the big banks, and the big bank charge them lots of liquidity costs for that. So what Blossom did was to create a Mudarba Sukuk to actually provide 1 year minimum of guaranteed funding for the microfinance institution. Effectively, the funds come from a form of crowdfunding. So typically crowdfunding is a very risky endeavor, but here we are dealing with regulated institutions who are financing micro entrepreneurs and SMEs. And the blockchain is used to track the structure. However, the structure as yet does not accept cryptocurrency. It's still a fiat currency and a legal contract type of exercise. The last slide I have is really to show the real world example. So this is not aspirational. This is not vision. This was a sukuk that was issued at the end of 2019, pre-COVID, and basically was the world's smallest sukuk at around $50,000 that was provided by a social impact investor, somebody who really liked what we were trying to do with technology and felt this was the future. So we used them as a pilot exercise, and then we found a microfinance institution called Bina Ummah in Indonesia. Now, founded in 1998, 25,000 cooperative members. we basically created a sukuk effectively on the blockchain where we funded 234 micro SMEs with their Murabaha financings. Now, these are genuine Murabaha financings. So these are financing, goods, mincemeat for their market stall, plastic shoes that they sell at the market. So all of these sort of micro asset type of funding, so genuine asset finance. And what's interesting, you can see here the impact during COVID. There was a drop in the repayments that came through, but these are people that do not have social welfare. They do not have sick pay. So they basically had to go back to work. And you can see the performance was extremely resilient. This gave a 14.5% return on a rupiah basis, 10% on a dollar basis. And it shows that microfinance, sukuk, asset-based financing can actually be a genuine profit share activity. So this was not fixed income. This was not fixed returns. If the portfolio collapsed during COVID, then your returns obviously go down. But here you saw, even during COVID, it actually performed very well. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Khaled, and a very thought-provoking presentation. I remember we discussed several times back in London about the need to step out of the conventional Islamic finance and get to the core of providing real services, riba-free, and away from fiat money to the community at large. Very, very, very thought-provoking. Please stay with us for the next 15 minutes. We turn to the second presentation, and then I will have to put forward some questions to you and to the second presentation. Thank you. Se possiamo andare con la seconda presentazione.
We will move on with the second presentation now. Good morning, Ahmed. Good morning. We are ready for your presentation. You can send the slides. We have online also Khalid from Dubai, and at the end we will ask you a few questions. We cannot hear you. The mic is off. The interpreters cannot hear the speaker. The interpretation cannot be delivered. Unfortunately, there is a technical problem. You should try and reconnect because we cannot hear you. We could hear you at the very beginning, but now we cannot hear you anymore, unfortunately. Ahmed, so is part of the experiences of dissertation at the master's degree that are discussed over Islamic finance in our courses in Turin and around Italy. We try to make new attentions to emerge on ethical finance, Islamic finance, operational finance. So in Hamed's presentation, he will be telling us about his final dissertation that was discussed with an appreciation of the Commission for his brilliant work, in particular operational work on the field. Unfortunately, there is a technical problem. Could you please place the slides, and I will be able to comment them because I know them well, as I did at the beginning.
È nominata sul server con un numero progressivo e il nome. Che strano che ti arriva, all'inizio è arrivato come con Geon, poi non è più arrivato. Anche Geon si è caricato. Ecco, posso andare?
Shall I go? Can I go?
Allora andate.
Okay.
Sì, certo.
Okay, you have the floor then. Wonderful.
Salve, buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning everyone, and I apologize for the technical problems. First of all, I would like to thank my professor, Mr. Bergoni, Professor Bergognoni, for having been my professor and for inviting me at TIEF. It's my pleasure to share my experience in my master's degree at the University of Ferrara in Islamic finance. And as it was mentioned, I will try to show my slides. Hopefully you will see them.
Ecco, adesso parte.
As it was mentioned, this work concerned the modality of finance for the financial acquisition of places of worship in Italy by the Muslim community. So in order to understand whether the Islamic finance can represent an asset for the Italian economy, it is important to understand the applicability principle of this market and to understand whether this financial model could have a fruitful market in the Italian context. As you can see in the chart, immigration in Italy is developing in an important way, and 30% of immigrants are Muslim. So one of the main needs of the Muslim community is the need of worshipping. So here we're going to focus on the increase in the Islamic community in Italy, that is over 1.5 million citizens in Italy, is playing an important role. So we carried out a practical experience so as to see what places of worship have been acquired in Italy, what roles played the banks in these. This survey analyzed the cultural Islamic centers and the relationship with the banks. In particular, this stopped over the region of Emilia-Romagna in a period going from October 2020 until February 2021. So, as you can see in the first chart on the left, the modality of acquisition of these places of worship occurred through donations from worshippers. 48% of interviewees stated to have acquired places of worship through an agreement fractioned over time, where the acquisition of the right of property occurred ex nunc due to the payment of the last installment. So the advantage is to grant the acquirer to get in possession of the building, of the place of worship, without interest rate and without mortgages. So 33% of interviewees declared instead of using financing, decided to have a loan and then to go on for an immediate acquisition. we see that the reserve clause has quickly, it was quite quickly because it took just 5 years. So about these annihilation of the clause, we see that 60% of interviewees declared they respected these deadlines, and we see that 20% of interviewees even anticipated the agreements and the payments, and therefore they were able to settle the payment even before the deadline. So the last chart that is very interesting, the possibility of using finance, we see that it corresponds to a quite significant part. So we see these cultural centers that they declare themselves as favorable of this institute, or because this can occur according to the correct financial principles without an element of riba.
So we can say that the study carried out, worship centers always declared over 100,000 euros allocated to the acquisition of places of worship. We are talking about 21 interviewed centers accounting for 3,424,000 euros. And the period of time of gathering the data is 2 years, 10 months, and 24 days. This is for the purchase. Since over 1,000 Islamic cultural centers are located in Italy, we guess that they did not ask finance a loan of a bank. So it's interesting to calculate the overall value of these centers, and we have developed a potential market of 241 million euros. Thanks to this survey, the overall value of these estate bought is very high. We're talking about capital circulating without bank intermediation. Talking about so we have also analyzed the diminishing musharak, the diminishing partnership, which is an instrument which creates cooperation between the customer and the bank, the client and the bank. Client is both member, let's say partner, and locator. And the bank sells its ownership to the customer, So we go from a concept of ownership from the banking institution to the client. This can be an alternative solution because it can be adjusted to agreement principle of Italian requirements, and this could be a first step in Italy of Islam finance. And this is my last slide. And thank you very much again for your invitation. With Paolo Biancone, I would like to underline the importance of this survey, which is the first one in Italy. It's a very hot subject in Italy, the financing of cultural centers and mosques in Italy, what they're called cultural centers. They are worship centers in Italy, basically. And this small sample gathered in Emilia-Romagna, which is one of the main centers of Italian economy, and the drive of the Italian economy. So this shows that 100% of purchase of these centers is carried out gathering money by the worshippers of community outside cash, let's say, outside any possible kind of fiscal percentages and taxes and everything, multiplying this regional. If we go from this regional level to Italian level with the number of all the cultural worship centers, we are talking about 240 million euros, which is 1/4 of a billion euro, which is a very large amount figure, which actually cannot be used because of the lack of an Islam finance instrument that can be accepted by these cultural centers. This is why the Bernardo bill, going back 2 or 3 years, is important. So this bill had been 2 years ago, had been scheduled to be discussed, and the Renzi government fell, and nobody talked about it anymore. But it is very important because of this economic inclusion and of these cultural centers that must be part of our life and must feel part of the economic, social, cultural system. So thank you very much. This is the first time this kind of survey is being carried out on the Italian territory, and we hope in more such surveys also at national level. Khaled, if you are still online.
Yes, I am. Okay. But I can't see my... Oh, there.
Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to pick your brain. What is the real possibility of impacting, of having a decentralized Sharia-compliant finance? Because you and I, we've been discussing about this topic for the last, now 2007 in London, about 15 years now. I understand that this could really be a ground, an ice-breaking protocol, and stepping away from fiat money and from banks, and we know the story. But to move from the theoretical area to the practitioners area, you've been a banker, you've been top guy in Islamic finance. What are the real possibilities of implementing those protocols?
So look, the Marhaba DeFi team, they nicknamed me the Chief Negative Officer because I'm the one who thinks about KYC, AML, consumer protection. My Moody's DNA means I look at downside scenarios and tail risks rather than upside and equity type thinking. But for the first time in my career, in the first time in 25 years, I believe we finally have the technology to make a peer-to-peer system a reality. And I don't say that as an investor or as a team member, but just as someone who has had a ringside seat at the last financial crisis. I understand debt better than most because that's been, Moody's, all you do is debt. But really, Alberto, I'm for the first time in 500 years of interest-based finance, I think technology enables this. So we are at an inflection point. And if DeFi can get right concerns around KYC, AML, consumer protection, then yes, I think it's feasible. And the next sort of 12 to 36 months will prove a critical period because you are now starting to see institutional DeFi. So banks have started talking to us, regulated institutions. When you have zero yields everywhere in the world, massive scope for inflation, banks have to find new channels. And a lot what's impressive to me before I started on the Marhaba project, most of the community here are millennials. They're younger people. So the confluence between halal and crypto may not have been an obvious one, but there is genuinely the feeling of a movement of the younger generation that want to combine crypto with halal. So between the sort of psychological aspect and the technological aspect, I think, yes, there is a feasibility of change because it's a different system. We're not just trying to put, beautiful UIs on the existing system. This is a new protocol, a new approach. And I say optimistic. I think there's a chance, but let's see.
a marriage in heaven between technology and social goals of Islamic finance. And if I understand you, this will be the right timing to move from letter to the spirit of Islamic finance, and finally get the masses the possibility of accessing Islamic finance. Next time in Dubai, inshallah, very soon, we'll get together and discuss, deeply about these possibilities. Thank you for Khaled taking over your precious times. You know that you have a very filled up agenda. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you also Ahmed for your research. And bless you. And now you're free to join your normal activities. Thank you so much.